thank you everybody. I'm not sure how you follow Siobhan O'Neill. It's a bit like I'm sitting there going, I don't have the slides, so I'll be speaking to you from words, so apologies, the PowerPoint skills aren't as good as Siobhan's, but I'd like to begin by thanking Kerry for the invitation to speak at this morning's event, and also to thank Andy Allen for sponsoring the event. Robbie tells me he's better than Andy, but I'm thanking Andy for sponsoring the event. I'm just doing very well. As Sally said, I'm Geraldine Hanna. I'm formerly from Victim Support, but I took up this new position of Commissioner Designate for Victims of Crime in Northern Ireland on the 13th of June of this year. So I'm still relatively new in post. I think I can say that. Probably not get away with it for much longer. It is a new role, as I say, and I was appointed by the then Justice Minister, Naomi Long, who I understand speaking later, is on a panel later this afternoon. But the post was established to provide a voice for victims of all types of crime in Northern Ireland. So those of you who are from Northern Ireland will know that we have a Commissioner for Victims and Survivors of the conflict in Northern Ireland. This post is for everybody else. So all types of crime, all ages, genders, backgrounds fall under me. Given the pressure on the legislative timetable in the last mandate, the post was created as a designate position, so that's why it's Commissioner Designate. But it is hoped that when we get the next mandate up and running, that this post and the office will be placed on the statute books. So in providing a voice for victims of crime, my role requires me to advocate for best practice, to review the adequacy of the law for victims and practice around that, to monitor compliance with Northern Ireland's Victim Charter, and also to monitor the outcomes of victims' complaints about their experience of the criminal justice system. I don't have any individual or powers to intervene in any individual case. In fact, not being on the statute books, I don't have any powers at all yet. But what my role will focus on is collecting the experiences and stories of victims of crime, identifying the themes from those experiences and using those themes to advocate and champion for change. It is worth me noting, I think at this point, that every individual's experience of crime is different. Just as all victims don't fall into one homogenous group, male victims are not one homogenous group either. Therefore, our response to male victims must be based on evidence and individual needs assessment if we are to ensure that their unique needs are met. Whilst my role covers victims of all crime, as I said, my remit also requires me to have a special interest in the areas of domestic abuse, sexual violence and hate crime. So today's event gives me an opportunity, hopefully, to advertise my role and reach out, but also to learn more around the experiences of men and boys. Domestic abuse accounted for about 20% of all police reported crime for the 12 months up to June of this year. We know that of all the domestic abuse cases reported to the PSNI last year, 1 in 3 of those were male victims. Whilst reporting levels in this area in general continue to be on the increase, we also know that this crime remains highly underreported, so these figures are believed by many to be just the tip of the iceberg. The Domestic Abuse and Civil Proceedings Northern Ireland Act 2021 criminalised a course of abusive behaviour against an intimate partner, former partner, or close family member. The offence captures physical violence as well as sexual violence and threatening behaviour. Harm does not have to be caused, but rather an offence will be committed where a reasonable person would consider the behaviour likely to cause harm. Now, reports from PSNI indicate that on average about 100 offences are being reported monthly under this new legislation. These cases, just with the length of time it takes for cases to get to court, they haven't got to the court stage, but it is encouraging for me to see the legislative provision being used in this way. And I hope that this bill will help reassure all victims of crime that they will be taken seriously and receive greater protection from our legal system when they report domestic abuse. If the legislation is to achieve its aim, however, victims must have the confidence to report crime. There is a significant body of work to be undertaken to build this confidence. particularly for male victims who face stigma or shame in reporting and often have to overcome the perception that only females or those that are in a straight intimate partner relationship can be a victim of domestic abuse. Or another perception among society that you are not a victim of domestic abuse if the abuse is not of a physical nature. Fear of not being believed or being seen as weak or less than a man, fear of losing access to your children, fear of being outed, fear of homelessness or financial hardship or breaking up the family are just some of the many barriers that male victims reporting domestic, which are a barrier for male victims to report domestic abuse, and also a barrier to their willingness to access support from services where it is available. 17% of victims responding to the Department of Justice and Health's call for views on the new domestic and sexual violence strategy cited concern that support was not available or tailored to the needs of men as a reason for not seeking support. We have considerably more work to do to raise awareness to ensure that all male victims, young and old, straight, gay, bisexual or trans, recognise that they can be victims. And in promoting this message, we must also work to ensure that the resources and services are in place to meet those needs. I referred earlier to the need to base our response to domestic abuse on a firm evidence base. The need to improve the quality and quantity of our data is a key priority in my 3-year strategy, and an area we must make progress on if we are to succeed in our desire to effectively tackle crime and support victims of these crimes. We need to know the true prevalence of domestic abuse across all groups in our society, and we need to undertake qualitative research into the barriers faced by specific groups and subgroups of victims, including women, men, LGBT+, older people, younger people, those from minority ethnic groups and those with disabilities. Without this research, we are left with an inadequate understanding of the needs of individual groups. In order to develop robust policies and interventions to inform our work with male victims, we need to ensure that we have a solid data set based on the experience of men in Northern Ireland. Relatively few studies have been undertaken in this area to date, so I therefore hope in the new year to commission research into the experience of men and boys. If we are to effectively tackle this issue, we also need to ensure that sustainable funding is in place to meet the needs of male victims. We can identify pockets of good practice across Northern Ireland, with local groups doing their best within limited resources to meet the needs of men and boys. We are, however, missing an identified solution to address issues such as emergency accommodation and crisis support for men leaving a domestic abuse situation. We must ensure that support is available at the point of when it is needed, and that support continues until as long as that need demands it. We must move away from piecemeal short-term funding of services and work towards sustainable funding models that enable services to focus on the impacts of their work, establish a consistent and skilled staff structure, and strategically plan for the years ahead. I hope that the work of my office will help harness the experiences of male victims of domestic and sexual abuse and use this experience to champion change. I would encourage any of you who are victims or who support male victims to contact my office and share your experience. These experiences will be anonymised, and then your story will never be referred to without your permission. Once our website is up and running, we hope to launch a victim survey to capture the experience of victims of all types of crime, so this will be another opportunity to share your story. We also hope to have a Have Your Say page on the website for victims to record their experience of crime and the impact it's had. So that will help inform us and inform our understanding of the experience of males. I hope that the website, well, my fingers are crossed that the website will launch in the next few weeks, but in the meantime, if anyone wants to contact our office, the details are on the NI Direct website. I unfortunately can't stay past the break as I have another event, but I would like to thank you all for your time. Thank you again for the invitation to speak, and I wish you all a very rewarding and worthwhile conference. Thank you.